Hello, my name is Stephen Taylor, and I'm here to talk about my game design pitch idea, Butterfly Effect. So, without any further ado, let's continue. So, just to give a bit of a high concept, the way I describe my game is Lemmings meets Choo Choo Rocket in a puzzle game. So, Lemmings and Choo Choo Rocket being kind of my main inspirations in the way that you have your kind of this god figure who's controlling these units and trying to protect them and save them from danger. That's my two core inspirations for this game. And I kind of gave a description just to give a bit more of a sense of what it's like, which says the city is running like it does every day. Crime and accidents occur regularly, and as a god, you have had enough of watching and have decided to intervene. With only a fraction of your power, move ticket barriers, umbrellas, and even drinks to avoid the next disaster. So the target audience and platform for my game is 12 plus, and it's more based around PC and mobile games. So what does the player actually do in this game? How would you play? So Butterfly Effect, as mentioned, it's a puzzle game based around scenarios, predetermined scenarios. And in the God View mode, what the player does is interact and change the environment by moving small objects and trying to avoid these bigger accidents happening. Hence the name Butterfly Effect. So you only have a limited amount of moves, and you can move objects around the level, and this to divert track of it, to avoid drink spilling by pushing a cup away, and you can stop people arguing by distracting them. You can gain a rating on how well or not badly you've done on the level, as well at the end of each level. So to kind of explain the core of the game, I made a gameplay loop, and in this you would just start of the scenario, the scene, and then you would analyze the situation. So the player would get to look around. They wouldn't play the level. They could just stop for a second and look, and then you can make a decision. So you could place your movements of what you want to do, of what you want to push, or what you want to adjust in the level, and then move them objects. And then the danger will either be averted or not averted, and you will get your score based on it. And that will just keep looping around for each level. So the design pillars for this game, what makes this game? For me, I've got three design pillars. One being choice, the second being trial and error, and the third being it's scenario based. So to break that down for you, I've created here for the choice design pillar a diagram, a workflow diagram, and this is kind of an example of the choices you would get in the game. So as you can see here, there's a difference between a cup of tea spilling and then lead down to people being in the shop being electrocuted, or a customer complaining about a cup of tea being moved because you've interacted with it. Now, the, now for these puzzles, I looked towards a theory by Bergen, and he talked about in puzzles. He talked about solutions, about one ideal solution. So in this quote from him, it's a puzzle is essentially a problem that must be solved. When a puzzle is being designed, it is designed with a solution in mind. So taking that into account, I wanted to kind of incorporate that. And from here, from going from the orange path down to the green, I kind of made an optimal path for the player to not foul or lose any points. But however, you don't just want one path when it's a choice-based game. It's going to get boring quite fast. So to kind of counteract that, what I thought was doing that, I would branch back, and any key point decisions of like where the customer complains, create an alternative, a worse effect of what could happen if you don't intervene at that time, or if you didn't use an action to intervene at that time. So the customer can create a disturbance, um, or you could branch away from the start and you can kill a cup of tea and you electrocute people in the shop. Um, and this is kind of how I get my score rating as well. So if you haven't followed the optimal path and you've diverted off the optimal path, depending on how much you diverted off of it, by interacting with the environment in different ways, is how I can calculate the score. Depending on how much you've got close to that optimal path. Now my second design pillar, which is trial and error. So trial and error is based around the player's not really going to know how the scenarios. They would have to play it a few times, and rather than just replaying the whole level over or having to wait to get to that level again, I wanted to add something that would make it a bit more interesting, like a rewind mechanic, and this allows the player to bring back time in a few seconds just so that that one event that happened. So, an example here, you got 4 cylinders that I've made in Unity as my example, 2 of them falling down, and they represent the bad events. Now, if the player uses their rewind mechanic, they can go back just before that event happened and adjust their move. However, if you could just keep doing that, you could just do that to complete the whole game. So, which I didn't want that. So to counteract that issue, I made it so for only 3 uses per level, and then because it's not really seen as consequential, I made it so that you would lose a tiny bit of score if you were to do that. Not as much as you would get for going a bad path, but for doing just for a little bit of score for using the rewind mechanic. Now my final scenario design pillar is scenario based, and this is based around the levels. They're gonna be predetermined and built, multiple solutions but built already, so I know what path there is. A bit of the ideas level behind them and how they look is for the Portal 2 room and the room 3. They kind of tight and compact and controlled environments, which is quite nice. However, I want the player to feel like they had a choice and they were really impacting their environment as well at the same time. So I went for the semi-linear approach by Rudolf Kremers, and that's talking about the player has the impression that they can move multiple objects and engage with the environment, but it's quite linear in certain paths. So it has multiple paths, but they're predetermined. There will be some red herrings that kind of give the player more of an indication, but they'll mostly be leading to the not optimal paths. Also, to introduce some modularity into the puzzles, so using kind of similar puzzles in from one level into another level, so players have like a learning curve and they can understand how the puzzles work and get better score from potentially. So as I mentioned, some of the changes. The original idea was more based in a bigger city, just to avoid bigger accidents, but with small actions and a good game. And some of the updated ideas, as you saw in my design pillars, a time travel mechanic, smaller rooms with more modularity, and then a scoring system for the rating for the players to see how well they did. Now the project planning and management. I based it. This is just a snapshot of the first 6 weeks, and it's kind of gone from the start idea to design of sketching out and generating ideas, and then also thinking into what USP can I get into this and where can I take this approach, and that's how I got my butterfly effect from a small effect to a larger, bigger scale. We've also had feedback sessions as well, user feedback, and taking into account some of the feedback. That's how my time travel mechanic came in, and some mention about modularity, which I've taken to use, and I've got some more feedback to still look into, such as like Spelunky, and then I can start working in the white room and my GDD when I get some more agreement and into the level designs. And then on one of my final slides, I want to talk about my approach to project management. So using the Agile approach system, as you can see, this diagram represented with the 7 sections. One of the methods is Scrum, and that's more of a kind of a sprint. It's going for a couple of weeks and then stopping and then doing that again. I think that's more appropriate to the way I want to do it because I have another project to run. So I can focus for a while, get this work out of the way, focus on that project for a little bit, and get this work back in, and work to set targets rather than a constant flow like Kanban. And also a theory that by J. Rodney Turner, he talks about the functions of project management. It's broken down into these 5 sections here: scope, organization, time, cost, and quality, and how they link to each other, but one leads to another. So the organization leads to the time and quality, and it can go to cost, and then lead back up to scope. So using these 2 approaches together, this is the way I take forward my project management. Just a list here of the bibliography and my figure table for you. And thank you very much. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask.